Today we're looking at the bike that nearly killed me, and I'm gonna tell you if I think this motorcycle is better than the Harley Davidson Heritage. Now, if you didn't watch my review of the Heritage, I would strongly advise you to do that after this video because I raved about that thing. And both bikes are thanks to American Biker here in Latson, South Carolina. Again, come talk to Rob if you need a used Harley, a new Indian, Slingshot, Ravaco, whatever. They have an entire floor full of fun. So if you want to come up here and take a look, talk to Rob. Again, big thanks to these guys for their continued support. And again, I'm going to tell you if I like this bike better than the Heritage. Now, if you watch that Heritage review, you know that I raved about it. The seating position, the comfort, accessibility, all of it was really there in that one package. And this bike being so close to that, I have to compare it to it. So it's like old school styling with some modern upgrades that could potentially make this a better bike than the Heritage. Now the difference between last year and this year is today we have clear blue skies. Last time I took a Chief or a Super Chief out on the road, it was literally pouring and then the car pulled out, and you can watch the video. But regardless, I liked it even then. I can't wait to actually get this thing on the interstate, open it up a little bit more, try some more of the ride modes and kind of see how they do once we open it up. Let's go ahead and take a look at the features that make the Super Chief, then let's get on the road and try it out. Let's talk about the basic specs that make this bike what it is. There's like 6 different versions of the Chief, by the way, so you have a lot to choose from. And that's one thing that Indian does really well is they don't just come out with 1 or 2 models, an ABS and a non-ABS. They will come out with several models to accommodate your riding style, your personality, the aesthetics you want, and so on and so forth. But when it comes to the Chief, this is my favorite one because of the functionality and everything it offers. 739 pounds, 4-gallon tank. You have chopped front and rear fender, teardrop style tank. And I'm gonna be honest with you, this blue paint is fantastic, dude. I rode a white and black one last year, which looked great, but I really love this blue. I think it's a blue metallic. You have an adjustable windshield, and there's several different windshields you can actually get for these. I wanna say this is actually the tallest one at like 24 inches. It is height adjustable, and it is quick release, kind of. Full LEDs, front and rear, turn signals, and your headlight. Now the base models have the 111. This one has the Thunderstroke 116, which is an air-cooled motor, and it's pushing like 120 foot-pounds of torque, so they are not shy about putting that in the specs of this motorcycle. It's got a bunch of low-end torque, which is kind of what you would expect for an American V-twin. One thing I already know that I'm gonna love probably is the seating position, and mainly because of the way these handlebars come back to you. So you have this swept back look similar to like the regular Scout, and then couple that with the front floorboards. It's not like your legs are gonna be so far out in front of you that it's gonna be uncomfortable. And the floorboards are big enough where you have a bunch of different positions that you can put your foot on this thing. They put massive floorboards on these bikes. The passengers, although they're not gonna be as well equipped, they still have a pretty nice setup. Now, it's kind of got this little bit of a rise, of course, for the passenger, and the seat looks premium, but we'll have to get on and kind of see how it does, even on this short ride that we're gonna do, but it looks really good. Hold strap right there, and then they got standard pegs back here in the rear. As far as the shoes it's wearing, it's got the Pirelli Night Dragon tires. You have a single rotor, front and rear, 4 piston caliber up front, 2 in the rear. You can see the pipes come back on one side of the motorcycle. You have no pipes or anything over here, and then you have these rigid leather bags. So they're not gonna give you the security like a hard locking bag like the Challenger or the Chieftain, but to complete the look and functionality of this motorcycle, it really does a lot for the bike. And that's one of the biggest reasons that I love this particular model. It's my favorite model as far as the Chief goes. So you get the power, you get the storage, but you also on the Super Chief Limited get the ride command. And so this is one of the most exciting features, I think, of the Super Chief Limited. It's a TFT display, So whether it's really bright outside or really cloudy or whatever, you're going to be able to see that screen really clearly. You have your ride modes, of course. So sport, rain, and touring. We got to use rain mode last year, which was fun. You also have live weather updates, traffic updates. It of course has GPS in here, all kinds of really cool stuff that the 7-inch is going to give you on the big bikes, except in a standard looking cluster. But this thing is far from standard when it comes to the instrumentation. Fuel, RPM gauge, your speedometer, but the speedometer and the tachometer act like an analog, except they're digital. So you kind of have the best of both worlds there. As you scroll through it with the back button, you then are met with some additional options and or setup. So it is pretty customizable as well, just like the ride command systems on the other motorcycles. You got temperature, battery voltage. You of course got your range, your miles per gallon. It's going to tell you at the bottom what kind of mode you're in, whether you're in sport or standard or whatever. And then what's cool too is you obviously have like your trips, but then you have like your elevation, your distance, your current ride, really neat stuff. And then the GPS aspect of it. You can go in here, you can turn on weather updates and traffic updates all on the same screen right here. You have touchscreen buttons, and then you also have the physical button on the back of the left handlebar there. So it's really intuitive to just scroll through and go to the option you want. You can change your ride mode here. So of course, standard, sport, or touring mode. I think I said rain mode, but I want to say I was in standard last year, not rain mode. But regardless, it does a really good job. If you want to wake up the throttle, sport mode is fantastic. Or if you just kind of want to cruise and be a little bit easier with it, you got the other modes there as well. Brightness settings, pretty much anything you want to do right here from this screen. And then you could of course go into the bike. You can look at your ride. You can physically tap all this, but it's just honestly much easier to just go through here and start scrolling with the back button. So I really like that functionality there. Horn, high beam, low beam, right? Cruise control, of course, ABS is standard. So now let's get on the motorcycle. Let me take this thing for a ride, get it on the interstate and see how it does out there. 6-speed transmission, of course, and I can't wait to get this thing opened up a little bit more than what we did last time. Let's go ahead and get saddled up.
All right, give it some power. Let it do its thing here. Start it up. I really like the paint. This is a nice, clean paint job. I like it. All right, clear the warning. Here we go. I thought we had a different one here. There we go. I like that one. All right. One thing about these motorcycles is very similar to the Heritage and lowriders, your Softails, things like that, is the weight from this to something like my Road Glide is really noticeable. So you may think, you know, 739 pounds, that ain't light, which it's not. So here we are with the 2022 Super Chief Limited. So we talked about the instrumentation and all of that kind of stuff. I want to talk about the seating position. So I'm 5'7", and I can tell you right now, this is comfortable. You know, the Heritage really stuck out to me as being just uber comfortable. I mean, one of the most comfortable bikes I've ever sat in, quite honestly. And this is really no exception. It has that same type of swept back handlebars. Upright position, feet out in front of you, the way God intended it to be. This is how I want to sit on a motorcycle. You know what I mean? So that part of it already fantastic. Now I'm cruising about 55 right now. The buffeting and stuff isn't too bad. I'm interested to see how that's going to be on the highway. We'll just have to see. This is a little bit taller windshield, and my height, again 5'7", I see right over the top of it, like almost perfect. So I wouldn't have to make any adjustments for me personally. I'm not getting too much wind on my head right now. Again, that may change once we get on the highway. Fourth gear, of course, whenever you pull in the clutch, your gear indicator will not go away. I'm in sport mode right now, and the acceleration, just like with all these Indians, man, makes such a huge difference when you open up the throttle. It just makes it a little bit more touchy, a little bit more willing to wake up. And so you get that added benefit if you just kind of want to cruise. You're in, you know, cruise control, you're going on a trip or whatever, you know, pop it in standard mode or touring mode. Of course, it's not going to change until you come to a stop, but if you want to wake it up a little bit more, that's where those ride modes come in handy. Now there's a button on the back over here that I, for the life of me, cannot figure out. It's got a little check mark on it, so I was thinking, well, if you're in a menu and you want to select whatever, then that's what it's for. But it didn't change anything when I was going through the screen. So if you know what that little button on the right handlebar is for, let me know. The left one, I know what that's for, but that is a convenient little feature as well. Bike handles really well. You got these like spoke wire wheels. What's cool about these bikes is, first of all, the seat height. Check out my feet, no problem there. You have like this old school aesthetic to it, but you have one or a couple of really important modern changes to the design. Obviously, ABS is a very awesome thing to have. Bluetooth, all of that. Here's where the magic is really. One of the magical parts about the Super Chief Limited, this right here. If you're kind of on the fence between one or several of the models, I would take this in consideration, because the function and features you get from the Ride Command is awesome. We've already talked about it, but that is something you definitely want to consider. The one I rode last year didn't have it. This is just, in my opinion, way better as far as giving you some advancements in modern technology, because really this bike doesn't have a lot. It's got an old school air-cooled motor that produces a lot of low-end torque, right? You know, of course, it's got LEDs, it's got ABS, it's got things like that, but when it comes down to it, it's one of the modern old school bikes, and this is what kind of brings it up to date, right? Again, these bars are swept back perfectly. I'm gonna take a video of this so y'all can see, but my position is perfect. My feet are out in front of me. Again, you have these big floorboards, so if I wanted to kick my leg out like this, or like this, or like this, I mean, hell, you could do that, add a set of crash bars, and now you have so many different positions that you could actually rest your feet on. They look kind of goofy, but functionality wise, they're great. This thing needs a heel shifter, straight up. But it's got plenty of power to get out of its own way. And so that's one thing I love about the Super Chief, is that motor, as old school as it may be, it's got some power, dude. Turn signals on the one side. Got a little bit of a clunk to it, like a Harley or something would. It doesn't feel as like smooth as like a traditional metric bike, you know what I mean? Brakes grab pretty quickly. This is where I want to see how does this thing do on the open road. You know, how is the buffeting? You know, you got a windshield instead of a fairing. So in theory, it shouldn't be, it's not going to be as good. Pushed around a little bit. Nothing terrible, nothing I can't control. I imagine with a good crosswind, might freak out a little bit. Now I do notice that those bags are open. I did not secure them, so that's one thing you're going to want to keep in mind with these bag types. They can open on you, so I should have definitely secured those. It just is what it is. But cruising 70 miles an hour, even 80, you know, it's not going to be like a touring motorcycle with a fairing. You're just not going to get that level of protection. Now, I don't feel like my head is moving around a whole lot. I feel like the bike is holding a pretty steady line. It's just kind of yeah, it's just kind of what you would expect. So it's got enough weight to hold the road well, but not as good as a traditional touring bike. So in my opinion, this is where you're going to be at a disadvantage if you buy something like this for strictly touring. You can do it. Obviously, people have done it with way less than this. The power is not an issue. The power is not an issue. This throttle is ready to go. I'm in 5th gear. What are we at? 3,000 RPMs. If I go up to 6th gear just to try it, now I'm at 2,500. The motor's barely working, you know? So that part of it's nice. I just don't like the little bit of side-to-side movement that you get on the bike at higher speeds. You know what I mean? I was about to say, you got to either speed up or slow down. I guess I'm going to fall in line right here. Fifth gear, 60 miles an hour, 25, 2,600 RPMs. Not too bad. I love this cluster, dude. It's a bright day. Sometimes it gets hard to see on these really bright days, but even in direct sunlight, I can see this thing. Now, obviously, we got trees and stuff blocking the sun right now. Hey, there's American Biker. Big thanks to those guys. So, the TFT display is on another level, dude. It's really a nice setup. Yeah, the bike doesn't do too bad. I just can't promise you that I would want to do that all the time as far as like long distance touring on this motorcycle. You know, if that's my intentions, I don't think I'm buying this bike. Honestly, I don't think I'm gonna buy this bike. I'm pretty sure the Harley is a little bit heavier, if I'm not mistaken. But they're pretty close in weight. But it's gonna be about the same. I mean, you know, windshield, no fairing. So if I'm doing a lot of cruising, this ain't the bike I want to get. Let me get my thoughts together. Let's talk about the pros and cons, and I'll tell you if I think this bike is truly better than the Heritage or on the same level. Let's get back to the shop. So fortunately, I seen the bag kind of flying up like this a little bit when we were up at 80 miles an hour. But fortunately, because of the, maybe even this little lip too, but the way the bag is designed is that it kind of hugs that stuff in there a little bit more. So it is a nice design. Of course, you're not going to get as much storage. So
in true GoPro fashion, they're either overheating or the batteries are dead or something. But regardless, this bike, for touring purposes, there's better options. For a commuter and a light touring bike, I think it is fantastic. As a second bike, I think it's even better. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. If you want a main motorcycle and you don't mind all of the things from that you're gonna miss from a touring bike to this, you want to save some money, you want to get some of those still upgraded features with the Ride Command, dude, this is fantastic. As far as it being better than the Heritage, there are some things that are better on the Heritage. Aesthetics, technology, those are the big things for me. They are so similar. They ride very similar, and they also sit very similar as well. Super comfortable motorcycles. The storage, the security, and the no windshield and no speakers, those are deal breakers for me as far as this being my only motorcycle. Now, there might be some other pros and cons with this bike that I don't know about. It's hard to gauge it in a couple hours with the bike and really about 30 minutes of just riding the motorcycle, okay? So any Indian Chief, Super Chief owners, what do you think about yours? If you're looking at getting one, if you're looking at this versus the Heritage, what are some things that you're kind of looking at that's swaying you one way or the other? I'd love to hear those down below. Again, if you want to support me in what I do, subscribe right down below, join the channel for what, $1 a month, or become a patron and check out some of the tier rewards I have for y'all right over there. Big thanks again to American Biker. See y'all in the next one. And as always, hold them down.